Mike Macdonald had a quote that caught my attention. Now, it's a bit of a canned response. Mike Macdonald was asked a bunch of questions about Sam Darnold. He talked about how they felt that it was a move that was going to take them in the direction that they were trying to get to. And he was asked if he thought that the Seahawks are now more of a contender with Sam Darnold. And he very bluntly said, I do. Yeah, I do. Absolutely. So is this legit? Do you think that Mike Macdonald is just giving the go-to coach answer, or do you think that they're actually a contender with Sam Darnold?
He said the right thing. That's what you need to say if you are the head coach and you make a big splash acquisition at quarterback, if you make a good acquisition at wide receiver, if you are in a division that is pretty open outside the LA Rams. I can see how he could have convinced himself of this lie to be true. I can see like that pathway where he says, he's following the Costanza. It's not a lie if you believe it. I think he's made himself believe it. Me, this is a big fat lie. This is a lie stamped right on his forehead. Are you kidding me? They're going to be facing, actually, they might be a contender. The Seahawks have a very easy schedule. They play the NFC South and the AFC South this year. So they could sweep and just roll through and have an easy time and lose 2 games to the Rams, lose 1 to the 49ers, lose to the Commanders. And then you're sitting looking at a 12-win Seahawks team that didn't deserve to be there. And then I think he took a look at that. He's sitting here. Who's going to tell me I'm wrong? Joke's on them. I know who we're playing. They're not looking at the future opponents yet. I'm Mike frickin' Macdonald. This is my job to know. I'm going to say we're contenders. I'm going to look good when we make the playoffs. And then we're going to coast in the sunset, even though they're not going to do squat. They won't make a decibel of noise in the postseason if they make it. And during the regular season, all the noise is going to come from the first bad Darnold game where he throws 3 picks or he can't clutch up. $100 million for this, so much so for this guy. Where's the step? We let Geno go. Got that first weekend where Geno wins and the Seahawks lose. It'll be a fun day on Twitter.
I think that the key takeaway with this, I know that you're so rooting for this thing not to succeed. You have this weird vendetta against Darnold, but for Darnold at the same time. I've tried to psychoanalyze it. I absolutely cannot psychoanalyze your take on this.
You can't get in here. It's a lockbox.
Look, I get Mike Macdonald supporting his team and saying that having Sam Darnold takes them further towards being a contender. It absolutely does. Here's my issue with the reality of this. Darnold does not make them a contender. Improving the roster makes them a contender. What made teams like the Vikings and the Lions capable of being in the conversation to win a Super Bowl or to at least win the NFC was the fact that they had well-rounded rosters with smothering defenses, with premier players and starters at key positions. Everybody was roaming in the right direction. Right now, the rest of the Seahawks roster, it's a mess. It's gotten worse during this offseason. They haven't made any moves outside of bringing in Sam Darnold that has improved the team. They need to hit a home run in this draft class. Now, they have a lot of draft picks, so they have the opportunity to seriously bolster their roster. But if they draft the way that they have with their past track record, where they've swung and missed and overreached on guys that haven't panned out and have played to their original projection that everyone thought that they would, it's happened so many damn times with their freaking picks over the past decade. I think that we need to wait before we reserve judgment and jump into this belief that they're suddenly now in the contender conversation or could be in the contender conversation in the next couple of years. A lot of work still needs to be done. I think that we need to really ask ourselves, are they even in striking distance of making the playoffs? That is still up in the air.
It's the right. Obviously, you want to instill confidence as early as possible with the team, try to get a narrative and a culture going, try to get that really brewing now and early so everyone could possibly be on the same page when the mini camp starts, when the OTAs start, when training camp starts. You have a message of expectation. This guy's not going home at night telling his wife, oh yeah, this is the year. We're doing it all. Hey, don't make any plans for late January, early February. I'm going to be busy with the playoffs.
That'd be really fucked up behavior by his wife. It was like, oh, I booked us a trip. We're going to Cabo. And it's like, excuse me? What, are you just assuming that we're not going to be competing in January?
She could book that early February trip. She could do that because they just have a gauntlet. And last year, Minnesota, as good as they were, And this is a tough example to call upon, especially with the same quarterback on both teams. They had 14 wins. They weren't, I don't think they were genuinely thought of as a contender at the end of the year after that final game. After that final regular season game, they still weren't thought of as a contender. They were the 4 seed with 14 wins. How could they not be? They still had to get through the Detroit. They still had to get through Philly. I mean, Seattle, talking about the NFC, maybe they're at 8. They're a bubble team. They're a bubble playoff team. They're not better than the Bucs. They're not better than Washington or Philly. They're worse than 3 out of the 4 NFC North teams, and Chicago might be giving them a run this year with them getting better.
Right.
They're not better than the Rams. They're about as good as San Francisco. They're in the blender. They are in the mix. They're fighting in the middle. They're not I'll go back to Mario Kart here. They're not bagging in the back, and they're not front running. They're just battling in the middle, taking all the shells, getting the bad items. They can't get out. They need to get out, but they know that they're going to be in that mid-ranking position.